Alright, so today we are going to discuss Plato's Allegory of the Cave. We are going to study just this quickly, this allegory, story of the cave, because what the rest of the material you'll need to know is also located underneath the link to this video. It's called, Plato's Forms, as well as the Tripartite Soul. So make sure you read that. But nonetheless, let's talk about the allegory of the cave, especially since it plays such a prominent role in the Matrix trilogy. The allegory of the cave starts off like this. In a cave in Greece, there is this row of prisoners that is they're on a bench. They're all handcuffed to the bench, and the only thing that they can experience is the shadows on the wall. It is later shown through further reading that the shadows on the wall were, I guess what you would call the correctional officers standing in the back while there was a fire and doing like sock puppets. And so the only thing that the prisoners knew that was real about their entire existence was what they could see on the wall, shadows. Now Plato says that one time that one of these prisoners was able to escape this type of prison. And as he escaped, he walked more and more towards the light, thereby leading him out of the cave. And as he got out of the cave, he experienced a whole new world. To sound cliche, he did discover a whole new world. He realized that the light from those shadows originally came from the sun, something that he had never even heard of or even knew existed. And beyond that, he was able to meet other people, discover the rest of the world. And from this experience, he was able to go back to the cave. And he told the other prisoners who were chained up what he had experienced. Now, needless to say, the folks on the bench didn't believe a word of what he was saying because, after all, they were born in the cave, they grew up in the cave, all they knew was the cave. And so when you got this cat coming in saying, wait a minute, the cave is just like 1/1,000,000th of what actually exists in the real world, that really did not sit well with them. So what Plato is really trying to say through the allegory of the cave is that as we get away from what we are able to perceive, as we get in further out of the cave, the more real our experience and our life will become. Now he says it's not absolute reality because it's not absolute because, as we know from the readings as well as what I'm saying now for the most part, that appearances and reality are not one and the same. Right? That the reality, as in what is real, what is unadulterated, what is absolute, comes by way of the forms. Anything else that we experience is just nothing more than our attempt to mimic or to copy the original idea of the form. Now, how does the forms play a role in the allegory of the cave? Well, as the prisoner made it out, he discovered this whole new world, this whole new existence. And so his grasp of reality grew. He was able to understand more about what it really is to be human, what it is to live life on Earth. However, even though he's out of the cave and experiencing 10 times more things than the prisoners actually are, what he's experiencing is still nothing more than appearances, what his senses can feel, taste, touch, hear, whatever. He's only experiencing that. So even though he's out of the cave, there's still a lot left for him to learn. And so that's the lesson that we really get from the allegory of the cave is, first of all, you got to break free of the bubble that you live in because, we can even apply this to the city of Florence, if you will. If all you know is Florence, then as soon as you get to Atlanta or Manhattan or Los Angeles, you're lost. You're like a tourist. You have no idea what's going on. But when you come back to Florence, you'd be saying, wow, I can't believe that I'm doing this when I just came back from a city that has everything on a platter. Right? It's the same kind of thing. He comes back to the cave, experiences a whole new world, and the other prisoners don't believe him. And at the end of the day, what Plato is really trying to say is even though you escape the cave, you experience all of reality, you don't really experience reality. Because the only thing that is real in our lives, according to Plato, is the forms. Teaching, making a chair, justice, love, compassion. We only exhibit our version of justice or our version of love. I mean, think about it. Every country in the world has the concept of what justice is. For some people, it's revenge. For some, it's vengeance. For some, it's just equal punishment. But nonetheless, the idea of justice exists. And so Plato is trying to say that this pure idea of justice, that's the form. Everything that we try to do that says this is justice, this is our law, that is nothing more than our interpretation of the higher form. And so Plato is essentially saying that the only way that you're going to be able to even grasp, taste, smell, or even know what a form is you slowly get out of the cave. And the whole lesson of the allegory is to say that appearances can be deceiving, and unless you walk out of the cave and experience everything, you in fact know nothing, as we kind of touched on at the end of the orientation video. So folks, that's the allegory of the cave and how it connects with the forms. It is now your job to take the test on what you have seen in this video today and the reading material that I posted underneath it. So give this a view, read that, answer the lecture quiz, and keep a sharp eye out for this weekend when you're going to have your very first movie quiz. Alright, so if you haven't rented or gotten access to the first Matrix, I strongly suggest you do so. Also, later this weekend, you will get the next lecture on Aristotle. So, let's do this.